start today. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Takatimu te maunga, ko Wamatuku te awa, ko Tasman te moana, ko Katahu te iwi. Ko Murihiku Aotearoa te whenua tupu, he Ke Lewis Ballawin e noho ana. Ko Edgerton, taku whānau, ko Sally, taku ingoa, ko Give Where You Live Foundation, taku mahi. Tēnā tātou katoa, greetings, and it's still good morning. It's 11:35 on my clock, so good morning to everyone here, and just a really huge special thanks to you for joining online today and actually in joining us with this Food for Thought project. And welcome, I come to you from the lands of the Wadawurrung people here in Geelong, and I would like to take the time to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people of the lands on which my mahi and many of you live on as well and work on. I think that I want to give thanks to the Wadawurrung people that have nurtured and nourished the land, our freshwater, our seas, our skies, and also their people within, an ecological system, a system itself for thousands and thousands of years. And I know and feel so wholeheartedly that I've been so privileged to live on Wadawurrung country for 13 years now. As you may have heard in that initial introduction, there's a bit of tikanga Maori in there, and I am from Aotearoa originally, but have lived on Wadawurrung country for 13 years. And land that I've actually, raised my children on and involved them as young people in the growing of food and appreciating their environment and where they live. And on reflection, these activities have fed my family not only through the food, but it's the whole activity of interacting with our environment in that way has nourished, my family and friends, and I feel privileged that I've been able to do that. I also would like to acknowledge, all the Wadawurrung people who continue to strive to rebuild their language and their place and their culture and offer, so wholeheartedly their knowledge and stories to us, every day in this community. And despite such ongoing noise in the media and community around, their right to do so. And I really want to acknowledge all of that energy that it takes at the moment to have to be part of a campaign or a fight or a battle. And reflecting on our research, the Food for Thought, and what we're doing it for, examining the system of food, focusing on the food relief system, but big picture stuff, not just the giving of food, it's where is our food coming from, where are the gaps, how can we make that difference, not just continually handing over. And as I've acknowledged the Wadawurrung people for thousands of years and many other Indigenous cultures around the world, they knew their systems inherently well, and it was part of their culture and connection to place and country. So we have so much to learn from our Indigenous cultures around the world. And, I look forward to the day when that knowledge is recognised and embedded and really heard by our community and all those we work with and the organisations we work in. So as a start, I much prefer face-to-face discussions, but I like to be able to open up in a bit of a sharing kind of way. And recently, when I started here, actually a year ago, was at a conference, and I heard a man called Tom Molyneux speak. He's a Gunditjmara Mara man and is actually part of our board here at the Give Where You Live Foundation. And he spoke about, when you come together in these kind of sectors, it's good time to reflect about why we're here. So what is our generational contract? So what's our contract that we have to the 7 generations before us and the 7 generations going ahead? And often I think a number of us, we don't stop to reflect on that. But actually, why am I interested in this space, and what is maybe past experiences that are carried through with me as to why I'm here. So in opening up today and just getting to know the group of you there, I'd like you to just think about that for a little bit. I'm happy to share my own reflections, and that I'm born of probably 7 generations back, early settlers to New Zealand, so really harking from that English, Irish, Welsh kind of background. moving to a country in the deep south of the planet, probably having to adjust to their new environment and learning how to grow things to feed themselves and sustain, their family in a really interesting way. And I can't imagine, how hard that was. I also have, as you may have heard in their Maori bloodlines as well, so linking to the Ngāi Tahu tribe, which is the tribe that settled the South Island of New Zealand. Equally, they came from the Pacific Islands, so you're thinking Tonga, Fiji, kind of subtropical space, down to those colder temperatures. So there was adjustment there about what they could grow, things that they brought with them wouldn't grow. But again, all those cultures learning to feed themselves, by the environment they lived in, and governing that by moons and sunshine and all that rainfall, that sort of stuff. So my interest around food, it's a broader essence. I studied environmental management, and I think my interest really stems from people's interaction with their natural environment. And yeah, that's, I think, my generational contract and why I'm sitting here with you, my interest in people and working together. So and I grew up on a farm as well. So I think that was just the business, you're seeing things grow, you're sadly seeing some things die, but that's a circle of life. And here we are. So I would love everybody, if you could think about that, your own generational contract as to what might have led you right here to say, yes, I'll volunteer for Food for Thought. Or the places you work. I know some of you are here through a work connection, and we could just share that amongst the group. So I might start off with you, Kylie, if that's right. You're on my top left of my screen. And yeah, go for it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kylie. I'm the Research and Project Manager at Sustain, which I'll talk about a bit more later. It's such an interesting question, Sally. My family is from far north Queensland originally, and there's a long line of science on my family of environmental management and conservation as a profession. Both my parents were marine scientists, and marine scientists sort of heard the warning bells of climate change early. It was global warming in the 70s, 80s and 90s when they were talking about it. So coral reefs. My mum was a coral reef ecologist, and the coral bleaching that was happening was a really early warning sign of what was to come. And, in North Queensland, the ocean is a huge source of food. And so I was brought up really aware of these issues. My personal background is or professional background is in human rights. As a researcher and working in international women's rights, a lot of work in the Pacific. So I'm relatively new to the food security space, but I guess I'm here because I merged those two ideas of environmental conservation and the concept of food as a human right, which it's sort of unfortunate we have to frame it as a human right. That seems really self-evident, but it is a fight that we have to fight and that will impact multiple generations. So yeah, it's a privilege for me to be a part of this space and this project. And I'm joining you from down in Lutruwita, Tasmania, in Nipaluna, Hobart, land of the Palawa people. So that's where I'm sitting now. And it's great to be speaking across the Bass Strait.
Awesome. Thank you, Kylie. That's great. And we're stoked to have you here too. It's really cool. Thank you for joining.
My pleasure.
Jenna, you're next on my screen. That's it.
Great. Yeah, sorry. I'm just getting my head around all this technology. I love it. Well, I'm coming from Wadawurrung lands. I live in Norlane and have been quite heavily involved in sort of an urban agricultural movement here, and have been exposed to how important it is for people to have food and food security. I've started many small projects, community gardens, school gardens, trying to get a sort of green growing revolution going, but I found it very difficult then once I had everything, all this beautiful food that was organically grown, to get people to take it and to know how to use it. So I feel there's a bigger picture issue in regards to like education and, implementing some larger policies at different levels. So that's why I'm here, and I love growing and have a family and a very close community that enjoys looking after our environment, not just vegetables, but looking after our creeks and waterways and trees and everything like that. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenna. Really appreciate that. And yeah, lovely to hear that. You're obviously doing a lot of special stuff. Eliza and Chris, you're next on my screen. Are you two happy to draw straws?
Okay.
There you go, Chris.
Okay. I'm Chris Maddock. Eliza would have heard me say this, so but the R word I use is not retired. The R word I use is repurposed. I'm just retired from full-time work and doing different things. I was an accountant for most of my working life, working in a variety of areas. But my background was that I grew up as a young boy at Winchelsea. My father was a shearer. And then he ended up by managing farms, and so therefore I always had a sort of farming, and in fact I'm the first generation of our that hasn't earned their income from some sort of agricultural related pursuit, I guess. But having said that, I had the farm that my father managed. Had we owned that, I probably would have loved to have been on that. I always had this farming thing, so I had my own veggie garden and things like that at home, you know, a little house, and so therefore I've always liked growing food, and had I known that we were meeting face to face, I would have bought you all in a whole host of lemons that I have at the moment. But so I've always liked growing stuff. It's been part of what I like doing, but more practically I've been involved, and I see Annette's on the call here that have been involved, or still am involved with One Care Geelong. We've sort of transitioned our name to One Hope Community, and we provide a weekly meal for people who a free weekly meal for people who are suffering food insecurity. We also run a pantry on a Tuesday where people come in, and it has been involved as part of that with the Geelong Food Network. And so it is from a position of it's from a position of people that are feeling less than because they don't have food, I guess, and so therefore that's always been part of my upbringing, if you like, and I remember going back when I was a young boy. We suffered droughts, and my first experience of drought gave me a whole thing of water, and even to this day I drive my wife nuts, but even to turn on the shower, I have a bucket getting all that cold water before it gets warm, and I put it on the plants and things like that. So I'm always conscious about the use of water as part of food production as well. So, you know, but primarily my current stage is looking at, you know, ensuring that, you know, one of the two things we should always have in, you know, is health and food, and it's the food aspect that I'm trying to do my bit, because I'm not good at helping in health.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Eliza, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I've just last minute this morning decided to come along because I really want to learn more about this project. So I am a fly on the wall with face, but I won't go back. I'll just go back to my childhood really, and my connection with food, and I just have memories growing up where we weren't completely off the grid, my parents, but almost, and I never really thought about it back then. It wasn't a thing. We just were, and we just did it. But we would sit down for several meals a week, which were everything that we had raised or grown. And my husband had a very similar upbringing as well. And I believe that's the reason why we are joint, and so we're trying to in what ways we can, in a very different kind of, you know, environment, I guess, suburban area, trying to do what we can in that way for our kids. Yeah, that's my story. I think
Awesome.
food's so social, you know, I think the importance of food in a social way. And sometimes I think of, you know, gathering with friends and we do it around food and we travel around food and we do these things around food. And then when I think that some people don't have access to food, they miss all these things on top of these things that we enjoy. Anyway, I'm going on, but you get the point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do. Thanks, Eliza. Thanks for sharing. It's really important. It's great to hear as well. Forrest.
Well, my background is clearly very different, as you can tell from my accent. I've only been in Australia for 4 years. I guess my interest lies in the fact that before I left my home crazy country, I was a chair of a nonprofit called Alliance for Living. Our clients were all HIV and AIDS clients, and we dealt with a lot of homelessness, drug addiction, in addition, obviously, food insecurity. And I could see the difference that being able to access food for these people made in their lives. And I'm particularly concerned about the impact on kids. Those kids that I also tutor at Western Heights College in Bell Post. Kids that aren't eating can't learn. They're so focused on you know, when am I getting the next meal, that their learning is inhibited, which means their future is inhibited, which is a tragedy. It's something that shouldn't happen in a wealthy country. I was recently back in the U.S. On the west, well, I was all over, but on the West Coast in San Francisco. I've seen a fair amount of homelessness and how tragic it is. People's lives are devastated. Often through no fault of their own, where there is a lot of them are PTSD victims. Housing is insane in San Francisco, as is in some places here. But people are left to themselves, and there's not a lot of services. So I guess that, and growing up in the 60s when we had an idealistic view of how the world should be, I guess I'm still caught up in that. Although most of my generation in the United States has gone elsewhere. In any case, that's my interest. And the thing I'm concerned about, and this happened a lot with our nonprofit in Connecticut, where there's a lot of concern for overlapping missions. That we don't want to have 5 or 6 different organizations trying to do things very inefficient. If there's a way that an umbrella group can be formed that maximizes efficiency of helping people with food insecurity, that would be my goal.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Forrest.
And thanks for hosting me in this country. It's a great place to live. And I feel bad for my kids growing up in the U.S. right now.
Thanks, Forrest.
Okay.
Annette.
Thank you, and thanks for having me along. I will apologise up front because I do have to leave at 12 o'clock, but I'll listen to the recording after this. So thanks for sharing. I'm not sure how to follow some of this, so I'll give it my best shot. But as we're talking about food, my thoughts around food, similar to Eliza, is around that nurturing and sharing and communication that food allows us to do. And certainly my upbringing, we had a partly self-sustaining small farm that we lived off. My father was a baker, and so we sort of grew up with food, but I always remember sharing that food with other people. So we would give bread to homeless services, and we'd even give bread to the cows on our property, and we'd always be sort of making meals and doing stuff. And so my sort of values, I suppose, lead me to want to share what food can provide to people. I currently work in a financial counselling sector, and previous to that I've had experience in emergency relief and also the food network area in Geelong. And my concerns lie with the vulnerabilities of people and what what they're struggling with in terms of financial and social connections and employment and education. There's lots of areas that people are struggling with, but food is attempting to bring people together. And Chris mentioned about the Brilliance Meals program at One Hope. Those sorts of bringing together and nurturing and sharing is really important, I think. And so I look forward to how we can continue to nurture what food can do for us. I'd always probably bring in that vulnerability of people and just have that lens as well in the work that I do. I'm here at the moment representing the Rotary Club of Geelong East. We wanted to do some further volunteering opportunities with Give Where You Live, so we'll be taking this on as a little project. Thanks.
That's great, Annie. Thank you. I love it, the Rotaries, and I know you're also encouraging that, but it's amazing that they've acknowledged that. It's great. And Robin, lastly.
Hi, well, that's lovely reflections, and it's really lovely to be part of all this as well. My current role, I am coordinator of the Geelong Food Assistance Network, but not for very long because I'm departing that role. But I think for me, growing up, I grew up in a very small rural town, and my father, we always grew our own food in our small suburban backyard. There was a huge vegetable patch. We had chickens, we had eggs. And even as a small child, we had our milk delivered and our bread delivered. And it was just a joy growing up, and very little waste. You know, that whole, there was no waste. I can't remember very much waste. I think we had a small little garbage tin that was rarely full of anything. So for me, it's that healthy connection and that healthy life. My parents have grown into, lovely old people, very healthy. And I think that says a lot about having healthy food, and it brings together family, and it's all about community. One of my last roles was working with the Myanmar refugees that were coming into rural community in Ararat. And food was really important to them to bring people together. So they engaged with our community garden there, and just to grow and interconnect with our, very traditional small country town, and to show them about, they love growing all sorts of different foods, which has been, it was wonderful to see, but that helped that integration into the community about growing food. So for me, food is just the lifeblood of a community and people and family. So it's just so important. But yeah, that's my interest, and also the healthy aspect, and those people living healthily, and that connection to the earth, I think is really important. When life's so difficult and so stressed, to go out into your garden and be able to be connected to the planet, nothing better. So that's a little bit from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, guys. Yeah, like I say, it builds connection within the group, and I'm big on that. So if we can do that over the screens, then I think it's great to understand, and the commonalities of us all is quite intriguing, isn't it, when it comes to what we're doing? But I love it because it's passion. Right, I'm going to share my screen, and forgive me around technology and how I navigate that, but I'm going to do my best to do it so professionally and perfectly. So can everybody see some slides? Yep, good. Thumbs up. That's awesome. I'm just going to move you guys a little bit to the side. Cool. Right, so there's a bit of background stuff here today. I'm not going to spend ages on it, and please just interrupt me if you want to ask any questions, because I've lost your faces off my screen. So today, really, it's just setting a bit of context around where this research fits within our organisation, the Give Where You Live Foundation. And what's wonderful with all of you that have volunteered, I know you've been involved with our organisation before, so you have I believe, quite a good understanding of the different type of things that we're involved in here in the foundation. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over Give Where You Live and what we do. I'm just going to give you a snapshot of the food sector, and then we'll sort of jump into looking at what we're asking you to do, and the timeframes around that, and expectations, I guess, and some pointers that I see that could just help. And then Kylie's also going to spend some time just talking about Sustain, the research, and the actual survey itself, and how what the questions are, and then how whether it's a SurveyMonkey input or it's using Word. So that's kind of the scope of today. So if I just look at this slide, which is available on our Feed Geelong website. So it's a separate website from the Give Where You Live Foundation, Feed Geelong, but it's part of our organisation, a key part of our organisation. So essentially, when we talk about Feed Geelong, we have an appeal once a year for Feed Geelong. So there's a real emphasis within the foundation's, using a pun there, but the foundation stones of our organisation around support in this space for people in the G21 region. So support around access to food and food insecurity. And when we look at the components of that, obviously a key component is our community. So we support the community in greater choice and access to food. And we do this through our Community Choice Voucher program, and also the sharing of information on where people can access food through our Where You Can Eat information that we put out once a year, and also just that connector amongst the needs, I guess, in the organisations that we're aware of. We also work with supporters, so we want people to engage with this problem and better understand the issues that we're facing in Geelong. So we do our best to advocate that and irritate or agitate the appropriate people that we need to around the issues that different people are facing around food in the region. And then the other component is obviously the agencies, the actual food relief agencies. So we invest and support them, whether it's via our grants, which is obviously a financial transaction, but we also do a heck of a lot of, have you talked to so-and-so, or have you talked to so-and-so, because, and just ensuring that the right connections can be made and collaborations where possible. So we do have a huge foot in the door, if you like, and have done for a number of years here at the foundation. I've only been here a year, so I can't speak for the years before me, but I do definitely know that this is a long historical connection for the Give Where You Live Foundation. And when we talk about the Food for Thought research, which you will have heard bandied about, and this is what this research is called, Food for Thought research, on the Feed Geelong website, there are previous reports that have been done. So there's 3, as you can see there. So this is something that we do regularly here at the foundation. We're committed to this research, and it's a key output of our organisation. So if you feel like some reading or would like to know more, that those existing reports are on our website, and you can definitely look at them. So we're excited with this rendition of the Food for Thought research and engaging the organisation of Sustain. So Kylie and her team, we really, these guys are doing some awesome stuff in the food security space all around the country. So yeah, it's awesome to have them involved. And these are the aims of the 2023 Food for Thought research. So it's looking at all the things we've sort of already talked about, that bigger system stuff as well. And Kylie will I don't know, Kylie, would you like to jump in now and add more to what I'm saying about that?
No, and I think I'm conscious of the time. I think I'll jump straight into the survey, but
no worries.
Basically, we're using a multi-method mixed data collection from desk review, qualitative focus group, and interview data, and then the survey data that we'll be talking about today to really look at. It's about demand and challenges being faced in the G21 region with a focus on the food relief sector. So that's what we've designed the survey around. And we've done most of the qualitative data collection by now as well.
Yeah, great. And that key thing around, hopefully, this research, there's a lens of being able to replicate and ask the questions again, so the tracking can actually happen, because in the past there's been maybe not that consistency. So we're just aware of enabling the data to be used in the best possible way.
Yeah.
So just onto the the next slide. So we are going to look at the survey, but I've just summarised here as a volunteer in this program what your actual responsibilities and functions are, if you like. So we've got around, I think it's around 18 smaller food relief organisations that we've identified that we think would be suitable for either of you to contact and conduct the survey with them. So I've divvied those up and I will send those to you later on today. So there's between 2 and 4 organisations each to survey over the week coming up of the 14th to the 21st. We're trying to keep tight to those milestones. The food relief organisations have been emailed information already about the project, and I'm actually going to email them your name as well, so that when you call, there might be a bit of familiarity that, oh, yep, Joe, Sally mentioned you in your email. So I feel that that's going to help. And in looking at this, I thought, you know, you people are going to have to be hustlers and chasers. So I hope you're good hustlers, because at times some people, well, these organisations for a start, they're overrun. They're doing a huge chunk of work on, you know, a lot of volunteer time and probably juggling a very busy life as well, because normally these type of people that are working in these organisations, they do more than one volunteer role in their community. So for that reason, they can be hard to track down. So I need to rely on you guys to hustle a little bit and chase, and it may be that it takes a couple of people before you might get the right person who's going to be able to answer these questions. But equally, I know you all have skills and a brain, and you would be able to do that. Equally, if you're having real problems, we're obviously there to help you. But just be aware of that. I'm thinking you may need to be a hustler. I suggest as well, if you wish to know more about your organisation, I am going to send out the where you can eat information, so you can refer to that. So that's got opening hours, days of the week that they're open. Google can be good because there's websites of a lot of these organisations, or even if they've got a Facebook page as well. Also, when you make contact with them, it's probably key to acknowledge the food for thought research, but always, link yourself to the Give Where You Live Foundation, just to remind them of where you're coming from. Again, we all know that's common courtesy and common sense. Just happy to remind you of that when you're engaging with these organisations. And I think it would be great as well to confirm your time or the survey when it's going to be conducted, and copy me in on that email. It's up to you whether you actually do the survey with the person on the phone or in an online setting like Zoom or Teams or whatever, or whether you want to visit them face to face. That's up to you and the person, what works best for you. But I think if I'm copied in on that, I'm not trying to micromanage this, but I can track where you're at. And also it might give some validity to the actual process. So they see that Give Where You Live Foundation is copied in on it. And equally, if something happens to you or you're unwell, I can track where things are at there and back you up on that. And that's just my email address to submit the survey responses to. Are there any questions on that? I might just stop sharing for a minute and have a look here. It's all very quiet and I can't see your faces.
Sally, I might just add something, which is the connection to Give Where You Live as well. Most of the organisations would have heard from either me or Kerry at Give Where You Live previously to be contacted for an interview or a focus group. I think we're up to maybe 10 or 12 individuals or organisations who've participated already. So just to avoid confusion, you can say you may have heard from Kylie, or you may have heard from Sustain as well. That's the other link where they might have
good
come
point.
in. Some people might be a bit apologetic for not responding to an interview or a focus group already, and that's completely fine. It was a very no pressure, here's the date or time, show up thing. So they're not being, punished for not participating in a focus group too.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Kylie. So I appreciate it's like a web of people, but you'll get it. So 2 Ks, Kylie, Kerry, or Sally,
Yeah.
and the Give We Live Foundation. Yeah, so appreciate that. I'll just go back to my slides. Yes, so I've talked through that one, and I'll send you a copy of all of these slides as well. So don't panic about necessarily having all that information down. So the Where You Can Eat information, I've just grabbed a screenshot there. I'll send this to you. There's about 7 pages of this information that lists the organisations and that additional information, as I say, just for your background knowledge going in, that can help you get a little idea in your head about who you might be talking to on the end of the phone or going to be talking to and what they do. This was an example of a website that I pulled up. So this is Christchurch Community Meals. As you can see, there's a lot of information there about what they do. So again, you're not expected to learn this off by heart and know it when you call them. It's just purely for your background information. I know when I start any new job or something like that, I'd like to scan something and have a bit of understanding about who I'm calling and what they're doing. So that was my thinking around this. Totally up to you. Maybe we jump into the survey now, Kylie. I did this slide because I love this graphic that you've used before. If you want to talk about it, you can. If not,
yeah, not only briefly, but Sustain is primarily focused on food security. So we like to think about all of our research and consulting and policy work around the sort of internationally accepted definitions of food security and these 6 dimensions. So just to sort of, this is within that human rights framework, where it's not just about people not being hungry, but about these dimensions, the agency, stability, sustainability, access, availability, and utilisation of food as well. That includes dietary and cultural preferences as well for food. To get the sort of comprehensive definition of food security that's above and beyond food relief.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I know I threw that at you. So if I stop sharing my screen and then you do yours, maybe?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Sally. That's it. I feel like I don't have to do any sort of intro work to the project now. I'll drop in the chat a link to, so I don't have to talk too much about Sustain, but just a link to our website if you're interested in learning more about us. But Give Where You Live Foundation has contracted Sustain to conduct this research for the Food for Thought. So we've been doing we did a big chunk of desk review and data collection work from available data sources that we've put together into a chapter that's gone out to our advisory group or this week. And then, yeah, as I said, we've conducted focus groups and interviews with a lot of the organisations that you'll be contacting for the surveys as well. And then the survey is the final step. So I can send you some text to sort of locate the survey within the broader project as well, as although Sally, you might send that out as the intro as well, but just to, locate the survey data collection within this broader process as well. And then I'll share my screen. So we have this survey on, there's 45 questions. My SurveyMonkey algorithm tells me that if someone's doing it online, they estimate about 20 minutes. I think that'll be a bit longer over the phone. And we've got the survey on a Word document that you can print out. So we're trying to provide fail-safe options for data entry. I think the easiest thing will be for you to be able to enter it into SurveyMonkey directly, but know that you'll have a sort of soft copy Word and then a printout hard copy just in case your laptop fries in the moment or whatever. So we can do any data entry after the process as well, but I think broadly it'll be easier for you to just put it straight into the SurveyMonkey. So I will share my screen and take you through the survey now. Okay, that's all. Thumbs up if you can see it. Great. So I've put a little bit of intro text here. This is the version that you'll see. Feel free to speak up or make any comments in the chat, because I have another preview version of the survey here where I can enter comments. And I'm happy to send a preview version out that you can comment on if you want to make notes for yourself too. But this is basically what you'll see when you open up the survey. So after the locating the survey within the broader research aims and data collection that's happened already, we really want to thank participants for their time. We know they're really busy. We value their insights and experience. I've put here, I think this will take about 30 minutes to complete. There's some more information about the aim of the survey. Some of this, the text here and in the survey as well, it's written to be read. Do you know what I mean? So feel free to not stick to a script so you sound like a robot when you're doing it. I mean, we were aiming to develop a shorter standardized set of questions. You can sort of say, look, we're trying to track demand and challenges over time. So that's why we're in touch now, and make it sound human. That's fine. Some of this confidentiality information is important. I've had just, every now and then in the interviews, people expressing like, oh, is this going to be, am I going to be quoted as an individual? We do want, the survey's a bit more about sort of quantitative, objective measures rather than opinions, but people might be a bit worried that they'll be quoted either as individuals or on behalf of their organisation, and they won't. So we might pull some sort of quotes from the survey data if they provide a response, but it's not going to say so-and-so, and we won't be able to identify the responses. And then I think, this will go into the survey results, will go into the Food for Thought research report, and that'll come out on it's actually the 16th of October. And then right at the end of the survey, you'll see I've provided an option for if people want to be contacted specifically about research results, have an invitation to the launch, or receive the final report. Pretty much everyone will anyway. They're on our stakeholder list, but there's a sort of opt-in moment there. SurveyMonkey is I'm fairly sure everyone would be fairly familiar with SurveyMonkey. It's quite simple design to administer. So I think after you've introduced yourself, in terms of administering these surveys, if you can sort of have a read through the survey and get familiar with it ahead of time, then you might be able to ask the question that's in a way that's what best describes your type of organisation. Is it not-for-profit, social enterprise, neighbourhood community house? People might volunteer the response, and then you'll be able to pop it into an option here. I've tried to you'll be able to see in the question itself whether there's only one option possible or multiple options possible. So I guess that depends on your level of comfort with, if someone said, oh, we do this, would you be able to pop it into the social enterprise category or not? Pretty much all of the questions have an other or comments option. So if you're unsure, feel free to just chuck notes in there. Or if anyone's going, oh, we do this, but also a bit of this, you can put some notes in there, because our analysts can come in afterwards and look at those text responses and go, oh, okay, that goes into that category too. So it's divided into sections as well. So I should have said that. So 7 sections with between sort of 2 and 5 questions in each. So the first section is about the organisation, it might be helpful to introduce them to the sections just so they're located, and they will have received a copy of the survey ahead of time. So I hope they're sort of hopefully expecting these questions and responses. What is the role of your organisation? So primary purpose of food relief incorporated into other services. It's a broader service that refers out to food relief, an option for community gardens, and then the lovely other option at the end there. What type of food relief do you provide? Sorry, I should have put this as a select all. So again, if you're familiar with the responses, people should be able to go, oh, we've got eggs, we do heaps of bread, where, you know, this is a multiple choice. We've got a vouchers option there. And then for this question, non-food personal care items, so that might be they provide, you know, sanitary products or nappies. For any of the culturally appropriate food or meals, supermarket vouchers, if they tick any of these, you've got some options here to enter responses. Again, you can kind of leave the sense making in there to us. You don't have to do any categorization as you're going. And these are, we've tried as much as possible to keep the categories aligned with information that, for example, the Geelong Food Relief Centre asks, or that Give Where You Live ask through the community voucher data collection as well. So people should be fairly familiar with these options. I'm hoping you hear a lot of the same language that's just sitting there. But of course, if people hesitate, feel free to read out the list of options as well.
Can I just jump in there, Kylie? Does everyone know GRFC, what that stands for when we're talking? Yeah, it's the Geelong Food Relief Centre.
Okay.
So some agencies are able to purchase vouchers from the Geelong Food Relief Centre, and then they hold those vouchers and then they're allocating them out to people that they're working with. So that's more of a support agency kind of role. Equally, we fund vouchers as well, called the Community Choice Voucher Program. So we work with some agencies on that program as well. So if it's mentioned of vouchers, if they're either Geelong Food Relief Centre vouchers or Community Choice vouchers, the agency, they will know about them. Some food relief agencies also hold our pharmacy vouchers, so they can, if there's a bit of a, yes, we've got food for you, but also are there other supports that you need, and if it's deemed that they need some help in purchasing prescription medication, then it may be a pharmacy voucher that they have there as well as part of the Community Choice program. So again, the agency will know about that, but I'm just aware that you guys might not be fully aware of that. But again, you can always just take a note about what that voucher is and we can work that out.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. Okay, for these questions, again, I might, as I'm reading this out now, I think I might put some little text prompts for you in the questions. So I would introduce this question 4. If you could answer this question on a scale of, you know, either never, rarely, sometimes, most of the time, or always, how often do you need more of the following products? So fresh fruit and vegetables, we've got an option there for we do not offer. And then again, just remind them the scale is between never, rarely, sometimes, most of the time, always. And then the same response categories again, meat and eggs. So just go through these one by one. These should go pretty quickly, go through pretty quickly once people are familiar with the rating scale. I think it will help that they'll have the survey ahead of time too. Hopefully they've got it in front of them and they can read the response options here too. And I think, is that, yeah, you can just move on to the next question. So do you apply any eligibility requirements to access food? This is a select all that apply option. No, we assist anyone. Same principle here. I won't repeat this over and over. People will be familiar with the different categories. If they need a prompt, feel free to read them out. And then we've got the other option there if it doesn't look like it their response fits into any of these categories. So now we're sort of getting into the people who are accessing the services. So what barriers have you observed or heard people face in accessing your organisation's food relief services? Stigma, limited operating hours. I think people will nominate these, but we do have different options as well. And the other response there. Sorry, we can, I'll answer any questions. We can, yeah, you send me questions over email. I'm sort of trying to keep an eye on time here, so I won't go through all of what each of the options mean for each question here. And then section 2, sourcing and procurement. This is a slightly tricky question, but hopefully, again, having the survey ahead of time means people are prepared. So here we're looking for a percentage. What percentage of each source of food donations does your organisation rely on in an average year? Can you provide a percentage breakdown? I've said here adding up to 100, but an approximate breakdown is fine. And hopefully, again, people should know this. So when you enter it, just put a numeric 25. We get about a quarter of our food from Fair Share, about half of it from the Food Relief Centre, and then the rest of it is from donations. So that's how that question is answered. The only, I think, error you'll get is if you try to put you can just write any words there as well. Does that make sense? There's a couple of these percentage ones, but we went round and round on this question of what's the most important, what's the most sustainable, what's the most secure source, but those all mean different things when it comes down to it. Most of the people you're talking to will be able to just go, 90% of it's from Feed Me Bellarine. But again, if people are struggling with this question, feel free to just, not sure, varies, or mostly from this, and we can put it back into percentage. How do you usually receive food products? Is it collection, delivery, a combination, or other? That's straightforward. Do you purchase food in addition to donations? This is another common question type where if it's yes, about what percentage of food do you purchase? Could you describe what you purchase and why? Some will give long responses explaining this. Others will go, it's about half and we do it because we don't get it from the distribution centre. And it's whatever level of detail they're comfortable with, I think, because we do have the qualitative data as well. Particularly people who've participated in those groups, I've asked them multiple probing questions around reasons and rationale and opinions and all of that. So I'm happy for people to keep it really brief here, or just the level of food, the level of information they're comfortable with. How much choice do you have? I should say as well that all of these questions are optional. So if you don't select a question, or if someone goes, I don't know, or they're starting to sound a bit stressed, you can just move on and you won't get an error message. We want to keep people happy and not frustrated by the end of the survey. So if they're equivocating too much, just go, okay, we can move on, no problem. What equipment or resources do you currently have? So this is about infrastructure. This is all pretty common stuff people should know, but you can read the options out. So this is, what do you currently have? What additional equipment would assist you in improving your services? That's the same options as up there as well. And then there's a few questions here about staffing. So how many paid staff are currently engaged in food relief support at your organisation? They're either volunteer only, or you can just enter the number of paid staff here. And organisations would feel lucky to have 35 paid staff. It'll be a lot less than that. And then there's some, I haven't put in explicit skip logic here just because into the survey, because sometimes that can get a bit baffling when you're moving through it. But obviously, if someone says we don't have paid staff, you don't need to ask them how many paid staff hours they are per week. And then this is another question where it's probably, yeah, so.
Gina, were you going to ask something? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give some feedback, so I'm going to have to go in a minute. Is there any way to design those questions, the percentage questions, in like a circle? I know that there's other survey designs that can do that, and it's a lot clearer what's going on. That's sort of just my aesthetic thing going there, having a little bit of trouble looking at that. But otherwise, I was wondering what the participating organisations are receiving for doing this research and taking the time. You know, we're taking their time. I'm just wondering how we're valuing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no monetary or voucher kind of exchange. Good question, Jenna. But I guess the sort of that collective ownership over the food system and this research, it's looking to sort of improve things and help them. So, yeah, there's no financial gain for anyone in this research. I guess it's the common good, if you like, of what we're trying to do. So, yeah, there is no compensation or whatever you'd like to call it, unfortunately, for the people taking part. But yeah, good point. And it's fine if you have to go, because I'll send you the link to the recording as well. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate we've gone over the time, but yeah, so thank you.
Great. Yeah, so there's a set of questions about paid staffing. There's options here from under-resourced to always sufficiently resourced. If someone says, yeah, it's mostly fine, you can sort of, you know, they don't have to say they are mostly sufficiently resourced. This is that, make it sound human. And then it's basically the same set of questions, but for volunteers. How many volunteers do you have? About how many hours. Can say don't know, you know, that's fine as well to put in here if people don't know. Do volunteers use their own vehicles to collect food? This is something that Sustain has heard as a barrier for other organisations, that there's all sorts of, you know, that it can be a barrier to volunteers participating if they have to use their own vehicles as well. And then any ideas for better support for your volunteer workforce, training, vehicle access, cost reimbursement, incentives, reward, or anything else? Do you have enough, this is a general question, do you have enough staff resources to deliver your current levels of service? If not, what are the challenges? And then we move on to funding. So this is another percentage question. I think, yeah, I can think about better ways, definitely in presenting it in the report, it will look a bit less chaotic than this. But I wanted to leave it open for people to be able to approximate. And for most people, most organisations, it's not going to be a sort of 8-way split. It'll be almost all donations or 50-50. My understanding is not a lot of organisations receive federal government funding anyway. And then I'll put an intro line here about to what extent do you agree with the following statements, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then you can just read out their options. This is sort of competition hinders collaboration. Does it stifle innovations? Is it sufficient for operational staff costs? Funders having realistic expectations, understanding of the challenges we face, or how much work does it actually take to apply for grants. Section 5 is about measurement and monitoring. So how do you measure service delivery and demand? These are largely outputs. These are pretty typical categories. that people will collect information on. So sometimes they might collect postcode data, for example. You can just put those in there. For these following questions, again, because you'll be talking to mostly smaller organisations, I think it's important to stress that if you have the data or you either don't, it's not applicable or you don't know, that's completely fine. What we're trying to get a sense of with all of the sort of next 5 questions is what information people have access to. So the ones who have it are going to go, yep, we get 50 clients per week, and that'll be an easy question. If people aren't sure or they don't collect it, they'll just say no, and that's totally fine. We just want to know who's collecting what, and then we can refine our survey for the following years to go, well, nobody collects information on this, so there's no point asking it again and again. So it's a repeat of the questions: average number of clients, how many meals. A lot of organisations don't do meals, just put NA. Parcels of food, kilos of produce. Again, that's probably going to be only be relevant for food distribution agencies. And then another percentage question. It will be really unlikely that people have the answer to this question. So again, totally fine to go. If you don't know, then don't worry about it. But if you have an idea of what percentage of each type of food you distribute per week, for a lot of organisations, it'll be mostly pantry items. So I think you can even put text in there. So at least we're getting something, even if people can't do percentages. What people have seen, agencies have seen in terms of changing demand in food relief from decreased, that's going to be unlikely. So most of our responses are percentage increases, but people might say numbers as well. So we've gone from 50 to 500 in a month. That's fine to put in here as well. And then other types of changes they've observed, from significant decrease to significant increase: complexity of client type and social support, staffing issues, donations and grant income. And then this is some orgs will know this, some won't. What are the most common cohorts of people currently seeking support? And we've got 3 categories here of gender, demographic, and reasons. So that might be one where familiarising yourself with the survey will be helpful. I think you'll probably hear a lot of we're seeing more single parent households, we're seeing more people on government benefits and people impacted by cost of living. So if people give a list, that should hopefully be easy to just click through these responses. But again, if they want a prompt or they're not sure what the question's asking, you can say, are you seeing more men, women, LGBTQI? Are you seeing more First Nations or pensioners? So that's there as an option as well. And then a general question about whether those demographics have changed in the last 12 to 18 months. We've given some examples here of what we've heard from the focus groups. We're coming towards the end now. So section 6, integration with social services. If your organisation or agency provides social support services, which are provided, some you might know from the first question at the top, some people will say we primarily or only do food relief, in which case no other social supports provided. But again, people will know and list off a couple of options here. There's the other category there too. When or if you refer clients to other social support services, how confident are you that their needs will be met? From not confident. So, for example, we hear a lot about people requiring multiple support services, and there's just an option there to put in some qualitative information. What challenges do clients face if they know this, or if they know people do access, some don't. What are challenges in accessing other social support services? If clients are referred for food relief, where do they come from? It's a multi-click option as well. And then there's a couple of questions here about collaboration. Do you currently work or collaborate with other food relief providers and services? That can be informal collaboration or formal partnerships. It's fine to just give we get food from so-and-so, or we share food with so-and-so here. A very broad question of if you wanted to work or collaborate with other food relief providers or other services, what would that look like? People may or may not have ideas here. And then there's this question, what reason best describes why you do or don't collaborate with other organisations? Often, yeah. And then there's options of we do collaborate, we've tried to collaborate, and then a couple of reasons why people might not collaborate as well, with another option down the bottom. And then we're sort of interested in probing here around what could we provide that would sort of assist in collaboration? So would a platform for coordinating access to food be useful? If it were an online forum for announcing an excess of a particular type of food or a need for a particular food, either yes, and say we could do that, or no, we have our own systems. Maybe if we had access to vehicles to collect the food. And then there's a question about reporting. So yeah, online reporting, which is sort of like what this survey is trying to do, but just out of interest, you know, if we could set up an online reporting module with standard questions like those in this survey, would you prefer to do that so that all the data collection was centralised? Again, there's the option to say, no, we have our own system. Or, you know, no, we don't have time, which I suspect will be pretty common. And then the last section here is just a couple of questions about overall reflections. So based on everything we've talked about up until this point in the survey, what would help support your agency or food relief agencies broadly to meet the needs of the community right now? Increased government funding, philanthropic, other funding, partnerships, coordination support, volunteers, logistics, referrals, data and monitoring. By this point, people will be familiar with this. These are basically all the topics we've covered in the survey to date. So hopefully they're primed to be able to provide a response here. And then these are the very last questions before the end of the survey. If people are getting tired, you can sort of, this is the wrap up moment of, you know, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you want to say or any feedback you want to provide that we haven't covered in the survey? Any ideas you might have, any additional comments? What do you think about the survey? I'm cringing a little thinking about this question. We're happy to hear, like, this is too long. I couldn't do this every year. I don't understand it. It doesn't suit our organisation. One of the goals of this research, as Sally was saying, is to make data collection easier and more accessible and possible to track over time. So the next version of this survey will be better and shorter than this one. We've just gone big for this one so that we can get the feedback of, you know, critique is welcome here, I guess is what I'm saying. And then a little wrap up again at the end of thanks so much for your time and your insights. Most people will be, you know, receive the report and get an invitation to the launch, but I guess there's a moment here to create a list of interested stakeholders, or if we really want to follow up on something. But if they enter their email address, I'll separate their email address from the rest of the data so it won't be linked to their responses. And then hopefully you can just click done and it will save. Oh, there you go. I'll make sure that that doesn't happen. So you'll click done and it'll just enter it, and any little logical flaws will be my problem to deal with later. Sorry, that took longer than I expected. And I know that was a big dump of information, but I will send you out the survey itself with the option to comment on it. And really feel free to get in touch and ask me, what does this mean, or what are you trying to get at, or what's an easier way I can make this sound human, and I can fill out the survey that you'll see when you're entering data with any little prompts or assistance for that as well. And yeah, you'll have the SurveyMonkey, a soft Word copy, and then a printout where you can write notes as well. And that's something that we can, but hopefully there's enough room all through the survey to just go, they weren't really sure, or the options didn't make sense, or that commentary on the survey itself is really welcome throughout too.
Thanks, Kylie. I appreciate that's a lot for you to go through as well as for everybody. Just wondering, any burning questions, comments? Forrest?
Yeah, cool. Just a clarification. You're going to be communicating with each of these groups ahead of time, so they'll know we're coming, and they're getting the survey at that point also, or?
Yeah, I think that will be important, as Kylie's raised. So I was aiming to do that later on this afternoon, but I'm thinking if you're sort of opening it up for comments again, Kylie, then how do we navigate that?
I'll just do a quick, after we jump off this, I'll just quickly go through and make some adjustments to that. You could probably send it through as is and say it will be, because we're not going to substantially change the survey.
That's right. Yeah, could PDF the Word document and send that out along with your names and contact details. So emails will go out to the agencies, and then also emails will come to you guys with the contact details of each of the agencies. And probably as soon as you can, get on the phone and organise a time. Again, it's up to you whether you wish to do that over the phone or on a Zoom meeting or Skype or whatever your program is that you use, or face-to-face, you're welcome to. Or if there's any issues with the ones I've given you, contacts, conflict of interest, someone works there you don't want to see, whatever, let me know. We'll change that around. But the key is that week of the 14th to the 21st is the key time to get these surveys done, and we're really trying to stick to that time frame to capture that by the 21st of August. So I'll send all this again in the email out to you. If there's any problems with it at all, let me know. And sort of around if there is a question you don't understand, or what if the organisation can't answer. I feel, Kylie, you've given a lot of that in the in just what we've talked about, but equally I'm here. Kerry's quite under the pump at the moment with this stuff at another level, and also a grant review going on, and pitch up is happening tomorrow as well at the foundation. We never just do one project at a time. So equally I'm probably the best contact at the moment at the foundation to back you up. So please reach out. I just work Monday to Thursday, but I'll put all that in the email to you as well. If you're unwell or if you can't contact someone in the organisation, Robin might be able to help as well as myself. So we can help you and all that. Don't feel alone. Are there any other questions or comments? Do you feel like you've got enough?
One quick one again.
No.
When we complete the survey and mark done, you automatically get the survey back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to input it into SurveyMonkey, that goes to Kylie. If you'd rather just use your paper copy and not touch SurveyMonkey, that's fine. You can scan it to me and or either of us, I suppose, and we'll get it in there.
Okay.
This is a dumb question, but what if they want to have some time and do it themselves? If we sort of, some people might say, just leave it with me, I'd like to do it myself and not use us. Some people, I don't know where that will happen, but
yeah, it could happen. I guess you could say, well, yeah, sure, have a look at it, but I think a conversation and a connection might be worthwhile if you can. If they don't want to, then that's fine too. Don't push it. Yeah, you can just gauge on that one.
Some people just might.
Yeah. Chris.
Just excuse me, question of, mention that we can go, if we looked and they've got a website or Facebook, and some of that information we might be able to get or pre-populate and just check with them, have we got this right? Is that all right with that?
Yeah, you could do. There's no pressure to do any of that background research. It was just more to give you some ideas of where you could access that if you wanted to, just to have a sense of familiarity before you engage with that organisation. Again, I know when I started here, I like to look up past grant applications that different agencies had done, just so that I kind of knew the lay of the land a little bit before I engaged with them. So no pressure from our end to do that research, but it was just purely if that fits with how you like to engage, then you can. But always check that pre-population, because websites can be out of date and the assumptions that we can make sometimes are not quite correct. But
yeah, well, I was thinking of the person we're surveying. It might mean that, you know, we can reduce that time in which they have to, you know, yep, that's all right, or, you know, no, it just goes through it a bit quicker from their perspective. That's all.
Yeah, I guess just as long as you're checking, because as I say, what you can read can be really out of date from what might be happening currently, and we're trying to get that accurate snapshot of now. Yeah.
But that might be a nice sort of connection moment as well. I've done that in some of our interviews, as well as sort of go, oh, your website mentions you do this. Is that, tell me about that, or do you also do this, or do you still do that? And yeah, great. Could be a bit that we're paying attention to.
The issue with surveys, I say, particularly when we're using consultants, is that there's an expected outcome for the client or the person involved. What would be the other than getting the report, what would they expect to get from this?
Yep. Well, kind of like I said to Jenna before, I guess it's, you know, involvement in the whole picture, if you like, and how, and Forrest, you mentioned this earlier when you were talking about your, you know, motivation for being here around efficiencies, and not that, you know, efficiencies around the movement of food, I guess, and the food system in the G21 region. And the thing is with food relief, though, some of these organisations have, you know, maybe there's volunteers that have worked there for 15, 20 years. They've always worked in their little area, and they have their donations that come in and the things that go out, and they're happy in that space, and that's fine. But for us to be the best advocate that we can be as a foundation, we need to be aware of what's happening in all those pockets of the region so that we can capture that to be part of a bigger story. And this is about advocating as well, like, you know, funding, a lot of the state government funding cuts that just occurred. You know, a key player in the food relief system here in Geelong was really under threat, and to be able to capture some information quickly and go, do you know what this agency does to support all these other little feeder organisations? We needed that to meet with politicians and push forward with arguments. So there's a much bigger picture here that does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know what you're saying as well.
All of that makes sense, but I'm just sort of thinking my experience in working with consultants and doing surveys is that you don't do, you know, there's an expected payback in some sense. Like, you know, you do these things because you're expecting a change. What is that change going to be?
Yeah.
That change might be, well, I'm going to get the data so it helps me with my organisation. It might mean that, you know, I can now connect into advocacy with the Give Where You Live. So therefore it's, there's an expected outcome. You know, like you got Give Where You Live aren't doing this because they want to, they're doing it because they expected outcome. The same would apply to those who we're surveying. You know, okay, do we get access to the data? What's the thing that they're going to get out of it? Yeah.
Also, it will identify gaps. You know, if there's a huge people that, yes, we take the food, but we don't have storage capabilities. Well, is that an area that we need to look at to fund that, you know, as a foundation? Do we need to look at being able to fund an operational grant to food relief agencies? And currently, I think it's $5,000 the maximum you can apply for, or $3,000. So maybe do we need to up that? Things like that. It will create a better painted picture for us that does help us and other funders.
I guess the key thing is what Give Where You Live communicate back once the survey is completed.
Yep, cool. Good point, Chris. Thank you. And I know that can help you as well in your conversations and engagement.
Maybe
with those
it's also possible that this will induce some collaboration between other groups that are not smaller groups. That these people might need storage, and these people might, and they can collaborate and help each other, but they're not
Yeah.
aware at this point. That's a possible outcome.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Forrest. Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity also for them to talk about their organisation with so many questions too. I think that's, to me, it's an opportunity for them to paint a picture for everyone else. So I think there's opportunity there for organisations, and I think they'll realise that once they start going through the questions and where their shortcomings might be, or where they're doing something that we can share with others as well.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if there's like a little, like to that point, maybe whether there could be a little tick box. I know there's one down the bottom, or maybe it's in there and I missed it, but whether if people would like to be acknowledged, their participation in the research to be acknowledged.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
That's a good point.
Thanks, everybody. I realise we've gone over a little bit. I do like to talk myself, so but it was important. I think it was important conversations and teasing it out, because you guys, are going to be at that front. I'll send through all the information. Again, all I can say is I work the Monday to Thursday, so I'm not available on the Friday, but at any time, flick me an email, a phone call, or that's probably all you can do, email or phone call. And I'm here to support you as you go forward. Anything else from you, Kylie?
No, that's all. Just thanks everyone for volunteering your time.
Yeah, we really are lucky. We haven't done this before, using volunteers to capture the information. So I came in this morning, was quite excited, because today's the day that we actually kick this off. So I know you'll have patience with us as well if there's some bits missing, and please let us know though if you feel like you need some more support from our end. We're only too happy to give that a go, because we want to do more of this kind of thing as well. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Alex.
Thanks, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.